Hey everybody, this video is the 7 things that I learned from ayahuasca ceremonies. Now, this video could go in like 10 million directions because ayahuasca is just such a huge subject and it has played a major role in my life. I've written a little bit about it. I think I've mentioned it a couple times, but I've never talked about this subject as much as I think about it and as much as it really could be talked about. It's almost like there's so much to say. There's so many layers of what it did for me, the cultural significances of it, what I think about other people doing it for the first time. Just so many subjects. I could spend so long listing the subjects, so I won't even do that. But these are just going to be the 7 things that I've learned, and I'm not going to really go back and explain what it is and all that sort of thing. Like, you can ask me or find it elsewhere. Hopefully I will continue to talk, but it's kind of funny because it's like in the ceremonies I was always thinking already, like, I need to share this with the world. Like, I had so much to say about it. I was ready to fill books about it, books and books and books, and then I'd get home and be like, don't even know where to start. Like, don't know where to start. I'm just not going to say anything. And that's kind of how it's been, except for that one big blog post I made. So let's just go over some of the 7 things. Give an overview. What it really has done for me is it's changed my life. It has shown me the cure to depression, how to heal myself. I almost want to say it cured me of depression. That was the first thing I wrote. And I was like, no, it didn't. It showed me how to heal myself. How I first came to ayahuasca, I was miserable, depressed for over a year. And somehow I just knew that I needed this one thing. And that was going to help me. And I had faith in it for some reason. Nothing else was helping, and I was like, that's gonna help me, I'm gonna go there, I'm gonna do that. And I tried other things, some success, meditated and stuff like that, but really the major shift happened once I actually went to Peru. So since that first time, I've sat in a total of 19 ceremonies. Some have been epic, transformative, some have been more mild. So it's not like the number really matters that much, because a lot of mine were back to back to back to back, and you can only transform so frequently. You can't just 10 days of ayahuasca and then you're enlightened. It's not like that. Number 1, it showed me that I have control how I feel about how I feel, right? I can't control my emotions. Sadness is still going to arise, anger, all sorts of feelings. Any feeling is going to arise. But what is my attitude towards that feeling? Am I welcoming it? Am I saying this is okay, or am I fighting it? Because for a while I was fighting sadness and frustration and anger. And it wasn't working. I actually had to relax into it and sit with it and learn from it. And then you sort of realize that your external circumstances don't matter nearly as much. You become this state of love, and whatever arises, but you are still loving towards that. It really showed me that I control the lens that I see everything through. I don't have control over everything else, but I have control over that lens, which leads perfectly into number 2, which is I don't have control. Right? Because sometimes the first lesson you think, well, now I have the keys to the kingdom. I can do whatever, be whatever, blah, blah, blah. And partly that's true, but also things are just going to happen. Circumstances are going to happen. It's just life evolves. So getting caught up in thinking all right, now I know it all, now I have control, that was also a pitfall. So letting go and relaxing was part of number 2. And what goes along with that teaching of not having control is you want to be surprised by life. You want newer, bigger, better ways to live by, teaching, stuff like that. Very 3D example, an iPhone, or let's say I used to love the Envy phones with the full keyboard, or a BlackBerry. Well, if you were so hooked on your BlackBerry, you would never have an iPhone if you weren't willing to let go of it. So that aspect of non-control is also well, that's how surprise happens. Number 3, the importance of breath. Now this is at the heart of meditation, is breathing. It's really at the heart of what we should, our first lesson in life should be about how to breathe fully into the belly, deep belly, actually deeper. and all the way up. And we breathe so shallowly because we're always thinking and doing things worried about what's next. And I had sort of played with that, but being in a ceremony, like, it is vital. It's not like, oh, I should be breathing deeper. It's like, okay, like, you're in some not pleasant state of mind or place, and it's like, breathe. Oh yeah. And it viscerally, you experience it. Like, it really was like, this is really, really important. Like, you have to do this. And I've realized, like, it's that the ayahuasca was just making me more aware of it, but it's always really important. And that breathing the best part is you can do that breathing whenever you do anything in life. Walking, eating, waiting for traffic, anything. Number 4, I just aged, like, it matured me. Viscerally was like, I just got older, or I just graduated. It's kind of surreal to feel that, because usually change happens pretty slowly, and rarely do we have like a moment, but there was a moment. And I want to say, like, I became a man, but that's too cut and dry. Like, we're not just a boy and then we're a man. It's like, there's just like big steps, and I don't think that they can really be mapped out, or everyone has the same, or, oh, at 22 you should do this, and 27 this, whatever, however we want to look at it. But for me, it was just, I am now a different person. And this happened on 2 distinct occasions where there was just so much wisdom and so many lessons that I was just more mature. Like, there was no going back to how I was completely. I could fall back on old habits in some ways, but not completely back to that state of mind. 5, it made learning fun again. I viscerally remember being like, learning is fun. I actually said that in my head because I so often throughout my life, like, didn't want to look at like the bad parts or the ugly parts or the gross parts. I was unwilling to really go there, and subsequently I wasn't learning. But the medicine really helped me get out of my own way, and then I could look at my previous behaviors, and although they were kind of like ugly, I was able to remove the judgment and just see, like, okay, just, it's good to see that and change from it. Like, it can be a really positive thing. It doesn't need to be this, like, for most of my life, I was resisting that learning, that maturing, that wisdom trying to come in, and I was just fighting it off. So I was like, wait, this is fun, because in the experience, there's all sorts of colors and things. Reality is just very different. The way everyone's experience is different, first of all, but for me, thoughts are just like amplified. They're just like visceral. They have color and they just feel more solid. Actually, what happens, well, I'm not really sure what happens. No one's sure what happens. Actually, what happens with ayahuasca, the truth of ayahuasca is number 6. I was able to differentiate between the small self and the higher self. We could call it the ego and the higher self, the animal nature and the soul body. There's like a million phrases for this, but I can go into a little description. It's sort of the voice, like your inner glutton, your inner animal, like goldfish and dogs, like they'll just keep eating and eating and eating. That's like, we have that side to us that just wants to consume. It's selfish. It's not really looking out for the community. If it gets angry, it wants to kill someone, right? It's just like, maybe you want to call it the subconscious, but we don't need to worry about the terminology. But I was able to differentiate between those different ways of thinking. I realized that I was listening to the lower one too often. I wasn't listening to the higher voice, and the higher voice wanted me to take different actions. The thing was, I hadn't listened to that higher voice for so many years in a row that I didn't really believe it. I didn't really think it was real. I wasn't listening. Like, it was always there in the background. I was just like, yeah, whatever. Play video games, drink, smoke, blah, 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 blah. So this experience really like took away the lower thoughts and the higher self, and it's like, okay, but it's never gonna leave. You just have to like tune into it. It's always there. Tune into it and listen to it. And me even going to Peru was like one of the big first times I've ever listened to my higher self, right? Because I said in the beginning, it didn't really matter. I was like, I'm going to Peru, it's gonna make me better, or that experience is gonna help me. That has to happen. That's gonna happen. whatever. And it's kind of a weird thing, right? That I would go to South America and sit on the floor of a little maloca, a little jungle hut, and drink this psychedelic, and it was gonna make me better. But I just trusted, and that was my higher self. So I trusted it once, and then I forged that path, and then it just becomes stronger. That connection strengthened. 7, I learned to trust. Now, there's so many ways they could take the word trust. Trust in myself, trust in the higher power. Also, trusting in that actual experience. Because in the moment, I could tell like stories about the ceremonies and what was happening around me and stuff. It's pretty crazy. Like it definitely does not feel like you're on planet Earth. Like you are definitely thinking, this isn't real, I'm in a dream, or this is so far beyond the wildest dream, experience, movie, book, whatever. It's so far beyond that you're just like, well, there's no way to react to it. Like it's just like, wow. Like everyone's having their own experience throughout the room. Like it's so fun. Like I don't want to dominate this with stories about it, but it's so unique. Like people are just having their own purging, and the way all the shamans are like working on different people. They have songs. So there's like all these songs going on, and they're like shaking these fans and sounds. And like in the jungle, there's just like insects everywhere. So it's just like, and you're in some crazy place. Someone else next to you is in some totally different world, but you're all like physically next to one another, but you kind of forget that everyone else is there. So trusting in like yourself, and that, okay, this is all okay, because you could easily get freaked out if you let it, right? So for me, it was the very first night I had an issue with that, where I was positive that someone died. I was gonna get arrested. Everyone there was gonna get arrested. It was over. It was all over afterwards. The authorities were gonna find out the next day. I was certain of that, because I heard a loud bang and I heard like whispers. And it turned out, I asked the next day like, what happened? And they were like, what do you mean what happened? It's like that loud ass noise. They're like, oh, it's probably someone walking, like a heavier person. Your head's on the ground, so you were more attuned to that. It's like that was all it was. So from then on, I was like, no. I trust the people that I signed up for this experience with. They're sober. In the experience, like you just have to revert back to that signing up and being like, I am trusting. This is all going well. People here know what they're doing. Like they've done this like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. Because if you just dwell on that fear space, it's gonna dominate your whole night. And that's what it did for me my first time. It was just one fear after another. Boom, boom, boom. There was so many fears going on. I could get into that experience another time. Because the only action of fear is to create more of itself. It's just a self-replicating thing. So once you start feeding it, it just grows and grows and grows. But once you stop and focus on something else, it fades into the background. Of course, it comes back up, and you have to decide again whether to feed it or not. That's sort of the game of life. All right, those are the only 7 things I've learned. No, those are like a brief 7 things. I could talk for so long about it. Overall, ayahuasca has like connected me to my like higher self, my sacred being, and has been an instrumental part of my journey. And you can get to these states in other ways. Like that's why I wanted to make this video, because all these lessons you can learn in other ways. You don't need to drink the medicine. I'm just kind of highlighting some of the ways that I have learned from it, because I've talked about ayahuasca and people like kind of know I did it, but I don't talk about it that much because it's so foreign, and I don't really know I don't talk about it. But now I'm going to talk about it. Ayahuasca, 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 ayahuasca. Alright guys, thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and feel free to comment with any questions, especially if there's any part that you don't understand and want to know more about. I could make another video on or respond via words. Thanks. Damn kids these days drinking that ayahuascas. God damn it. Drinking DMT, getting spiritually knowledged. I don't like it one bit. Drink a Bud Light, god damn it.